And welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winnick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage. And you're joining us on the podcast today, which is Leveraging Thought Leadership. Today, my guest is Dr. Troy. Dr. Troy is the author of the best-selling title, Cohesion Culture, Proven Principles to Retain Your Top Talent. He's co-author of the best new release, Mission Matters, World's Leading Entrepreneurs Reveal Their Top Tips for Success, and his upcoming 2021 release, Fanny Rules, 9 Lessons Behind the Making of a Leader. So before we dive in anymore, other highlights is Dr. Troy's been on the Today Show, Beyond Business Radio Show, a bunch of other places, and he has been a global leadership and entrepreneurship expert for quite some time. So I'm excited to have you on today.
Hey,
So
thank you. Thanks. It's great to be here.
thanks. So you and I were chatting a while ago, or not that long ago, about the new book, which was really interesting to me because you got into your backstory and your whole history. So tell me the Fanny story and your growing up and how all this came to be, because it was a really warming story.
Well, great. Thanks for that opportunity. So, the book Fanny Rules 9 Lessons Behind the Making of a Leader is a tribute to my mother's leadership and leaving a legacy of what she provided to me. So, I grew up in a small rural town in West Virginia that at one time had a little bit of activity around coal mining. And then, when the coal mining industry tended to dwindle, so did the town and the jobs and the opportunities. I was from a very poor family. We barely had 2 nickels, so rubbing anything together would not necessarily be the
There's nothing to
activity.
rub. You aspired to have the 2 nickels to rub, right? Right.
Exactly. And so in that concept, what I mean, and by the way, I still have friends and people back in my hometown, but the nature of what it was 50 some years ago was basically that 60 years ago was that. And there was
Mhm.
little opportunity for commerce. Education was not prevalent. As a matter of fact, there were no schools in our local town. Most of
Mhm.
us who got any schooling were bused somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour away.
Wow.
There was limited commerce. I think there was a gas station in the area and it sold some groceries. So you had that kind of a thing, but you had to go 35 to 45 minutes away for you to have any kind of a big city experience. So
Hmm.
healthcare and all of that. So when I was 12, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And for us, then living in that environment, we basically thought mom was going to die
Right.
because 50 years ago, what happened is most people who had a prognosis of cancer didn't have a great rate of survival. So,
Hmm.
so much work has been done, obviously
Sure.
between now and
Sure.
then. So, mom and dad, so my sister, 9 years older, had already moved away and moved out of the town, moved out of the area. She kind of was a little bit, at that particular time, she was pursuing her own life. And so, therefore, she didn't have any connection with our life
Hmm.
during that time. I was the oldest, my brother, 3 years younger. And so, what happened is friends took my brother so that I could focus at 12 and help mom with what needed to occur at home to prepare for what might eventually be her death.
It's a
And
lot of
so
responsibility for a 12-year-old.
at 12, right. So in that, so mom and dad made the decision to hold off mom's surgery until school was out. But from like December, January until school was out, like around in May, because in that time schools didn't go clear till June. It was sometime
Yeah.
in May, school was out. Mom prepped me by even giving me more responsibility. So I learned how to clean. I learned how to write my first check and balance a checkbook. I learned how to really get up to an alarm and make sure that I was
Hmm.
packing dad's lunch and getting him off and about. My mom and dad always spent from 6 o'clock in the morning until 10 to 7, that 50 minutes at the kitchen table, actually discussing their what life and what they were going to
Sure.
do and those types of things. So mom wanted the experience for dad to be uninterrupted. And
Sure.
so, and I remember as a small child hearing those voices.
Right.
Sometimes when you kind of wake up in the morning, you hear the voices, and it was like, wow, I'm getting in behind the curtain, to do this.
The adult table to the big
Yeah,
table.
sort of at the adult. Yeah, I've kind of grown up and I go from the little table to the big table, but certainly didn't want to have to do it because of the fact that she had
Sure.
cancer. So with all of those activities, learned how to do that so that I could really handle the household. Mom made a very critical choice. Her choice was that she was not going to be defined by circumstance, but that she would be defined by the choices. And so her character is defined by choices not circumstance. And so
Hmm.
she chose to be a person who was not going to whittle away and just die. She wasn't just going to go out without a fight. She was going to go down tooth and nail to make sure that I had as much knowledge and information that I could pass along to my brother and support my dad, because she was going to count on me to be
Sure.
the person left over.
So
So,
fast forward though,
mhm,
40, 50 years, whatever it's been since that time. And now, so you've written other books, you're a thought leader
yeah,
in your own right, you're an expert on global leadership and entrepreneurship. And now it all sort of comes full circle to say, actually, what mom taught me, because you probably weren't using words like leadership development,
no,
accountability, responsibility, effective communication, but all these things. Like, how does that come full circle? And you go, actually, I was in the hypo program in my house, right? Like,
right. Well, that's what I mean. Like we were practicing cohesion, even
right.
though I didn't know that was the term.
Hmm.
And again, it was all based on how you treat people, all those great leadership things you have. So the leadership attributes that are part of the cohesion culture book, that then also filter into the Fanny Rules. So the Fanny Rules book is written around teachable moments, and I created rules because I sort of felt that although not everyone has a great relationship in their families, always with their parents, most people do. Most people have a good
Hmm.
relationship, and so sometimes for me it was like, so how did this person miss any of the teachings that their parents may have given you? So and I want to also just say this as a disclaimer up front. I had a great relationship with my mom and dad, both of them.
Hmm.
And my brother, when I explained to him about writing this book, he said, don't leave dad out. I said, well, I promise you, dad won't be left out, but the book is going to be about mom's leadership, because she was the nurturer and the caregiver and the educator. Dad was the protector and provider. So there is a chapter in the book called Stepladder, Space Pants, and Honking Horns.
Hmm.
And dad's section is Space Pants. So
Okay.
that one was dedicated just to him. So tease the audience, tease you a little bit, that when you kind of get an opportunity for the book, you can kind of read it. But all of this coming full circle, all based from this perspective. Mom said, you can be anything you want to be, just be the best at it. She said, we were poor, but that is the condition of the pocketbook, not the heart nor the
Right.
brain. So you have to decide what you want to be and make those choices accordingly. You don't get permission to not be successful because you have been somehow feel like you've been destined to something less than the greatness that you want.
Well, and that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're enjoying this episode of Leveraging Thought Leadership, please make sure to subscribe. If you'd like to help spread the word about our podcast, please leave us a review and share it with your friends. We're available on Apple Podcast and on all major listening apps, as well as at thoughtleadershipleverage.com/podcasts. So I want to transition for a moment to, we've talked about the content and the backstory and how it all ties together. Tell us a little bit about sort of the business model, because you have a little bit of a unique or non-traditional sort of business model, if you will, right? You're not the traditional out there keynoting and all that sort of stuff. So tell us about sort of the business world, or the business models that are underlying Dr. Troy World.
Sure. So I am currently the Chief Strategy Officer for South Carolina Federal Credit Union. We're a $2.2 billion financial cooperative headquartered in Charleston, South Carolina, but we serve in the five major markets within the state.
Hmm.
And so we have a subsidiary. So the good news is, as you know, most companies, you have a parent company and you can have a subsidiary. And in our subsidiary, I run the consulting and executive coaching division. And so I have this opportunity to work with people. And because of my affiliation with the World Council of Credit Unions, the National Credit Union Foundation, and others, and because my PhD is global leadership and entrepreneurship, I put that to work. And so I have this unique opportunity to work with people around the globe to do this. And I do this for hire. So I have clients that I do
Hmm.
consulting work on, specifically about culture and leadership strategy and change.
So,
I do executive coaching with individuals to help them. I work for leaders who want to advance and want to grow and develop, while at the same time are focusing on the internal culture of the organizations in which they live. And so for that, my opportunity here is to inspire leaders to build
yes,
cultures of cohesion where people have a sense of belonging, are valued, and share in mutual commitments.
sure.
And that's
So,
the
so
work
what
I do.
what's fascinating about that from a model perspective is typically and this is atypical in a good way, someone with your background could hang their shingle and say, I'm going to be a consultant and do the type of things that I do. I could go work in a consultancy and do the type of things I do, the traditional org development type consultancies or academia. But you're sort of this interesting business unit embedded inside of a financial institution for credit union. So it's unusual, but it's not that unusual. So it's pretty cool that you've got the mothership and you
Yes.
also have the freedom to do the type of work that's really cool consulting work. And obviously, I'm sure you're held to a P&L and all the fun stuff that the rest of us are. How did you start that role in the organization, or how did that evolve? Because I think there are a lot of people sitting in an organization going, geez, I got to make a choice, or I think I have to make a choice. I got to go hang my own shingle or go work for a consulting firm. But you've got this third path, which is, wait, maybe you can do it in the place that seems not obvious.
Right. And I will say this, it's not always fun to run your own company and have all the burdens and the headaches that come along with you having to run all
Sure.
the, gain the capital, do the payroll, do all that. So
Technology. I mean, there's a lot of pieces of it that
e-
aren't what
e-
we signed up for in terms of
exactly. And you
IT,
don't,
payroll, compliant, blah, blah, blah,
right.
all that stuff.
So
Yeah.
for me, the one, so realistically, how to do it is, it's all about strategy, right? And it's about scalability. And so it's an opportunity to say, well, what do you want to do, and look at the options that are available to you.
Hmm.
You're right. I could have left the organization and said, I can go out. I have a very strong social media following. I built all of
Sure.
that up. I mean, I could go out on my own today. But the question for me was, why? Wouldn't there be another opportunity? And so again, most organizations can create a subsidiary and they could run that through. So there isn't one person listening out there who couldn't make this happen for themselves. What you have to be comfortable with is this, is that you have to agree on a salary. This is the best way for it to work. You agree on a salary. So I get paid a salary regardless
Hmm.
of what business I work, but I work the business to meet goals and objectives and desired outcomes of the organization and what we agree to, which is no different than what happens in any organization where a person gets paid and
Right.
they have sales goals or they have whatever. We just work up what does that look like, and then I work to make that happen. And
So for your entity, though, so I
yeah,
love that for you because that makes total sense. For the entity, right? Other than, and maybe it's only either, I would think there might be two reasons they would agree to allow this type of a practice to flourish inside in a non-traditional way. One would be, wow, it's such a moneymaker that how would we say no to it? The other is, yes, it is profitable, but it's a differentiator. We're providing incredible value to our client base that enables them to grow, which helps us grow. How does the if I were to ask the powers that be or the board or whatever there, what would they say? Like the reasons that we do what we do are dot dot dot.
well, for a large part of it is trust. So the
Hmm.
organization trusts that I'm not out to just gain it for myself, but that I am truly thinking of both of us. And so I, subscribe to, and what I promote within all of my books is transformational leadership. And
Yeah.
transformational leader says that I will focus on the needs of others and then handle self. I don't leave self out. I just handle the focus first is on others. So for me, I've a servant leadership heart. It's my listen.
Yep.
This organization has been great for me, and so why not do this? And here's the other thing that happens. What you would also do, I would recommend, is that you create this brand that you can then take with you when you do choose to exit. So for me, it was very easy because within the next 3 to 4 years, I'm not going to be working in a traditional company anyway. So it's kind of like my exit strategy. So if you kind of think about it from a thought perspective and go, wow, what would be the stars that have to line up? First of
Hmm.
all, 40 years of working within the financial services industry. So you've got that
Hmm.
background.
Sure.
25 years plus in a C-suite, 15 dedicated years to an organization where they have seen time and time again you giving to the organization, and the organization, when they give back to you and you want to stay there and you want to be a part of that, then those are some of the things that align to make this model actually work. But I also say too that if you don't have some of those things, I never give up. What I coach and teach people to do is look, what are your goals, dreams, and aspirations? And you have to work
Right.
toward that,
Right.
because the reality is this: you will never be a victor of your future if you're held captive by your past. I would never have had the opportunity to have had a, a degree in business, an MBA,
Right.
and a PhD if I would have said that my past, which was living in a town where I was poor and had limited opportunities, and said that was my future. But no, what mom helped me do, which is why her legacy is so important, is to say, you can go beyond that. You are your own limitation to the things that actually happen. And so for me, even if you don't have the perfect stars that align, there are great conversations you can have to align those stars. And
Absolutely.
sometimes it's the actions you need to take to align those stars. And they will not happen with what you knew before. They have to be on what you're going to experience now and what you are going to be open to get there.
Yes.
And one of the things that I teach in all of this is you don't have to know everything. You just need to be teachable. And when the leader is teachable, the leader's mind opens up to new possibilities and new things, and they're not restricted. You can be as
Correct.
teachable. You start to embody what I call a learning organization. And
Right.
Peter Senge in the 1990s
Yeah.
talked about that.
Yep.
And it's about being generative. Will I regenerate myself? Do I take knowledge and hoard it? Or do I take knowledge and apply it? And when you take knowledge and apply it, you then create wisdom. Up until then, it's just knowledge.
Transformative at an individual level, a team level, and an organizational level. So before
Yes.
we wrap here, Troy, any last thoughts, or I mean, it's been not only an amazing story, but incredibly inspirational as well. Any last thoughts to folks that are out there, specifically in a situation like you are, maybe in a non-traditional home, having that itch to sort of take it to the next level? Any advice or counsel?
Well, I guess I basically say that I've been told I'm a soundbite waiting to happen. So I would say this to you and
No
to
pressure.
those that were listening is this is that if you want something, speak it. So part of what I teach and part of what I coach is the truth is in the I am, not the someday I will be. So
Right.
you declare today what it is that you want, and you put it out there in the present tense, because to get to your future occurs from your present, not from your past. And so I would say, speak life to it and how you incorporate your life. Have a very positive attitude. As a matter of fact, I've written an article that my life is a postcard and I don't make any apologies for it because it's how I build my life.
Right.
Everything I speak contributes to the positive and the forward moving. That if I spoke negativity and downwards and not really saying that I'm good enough, and even though I'm still learning, I know that I don't know
Sure.
everything,
Sure.
but I'm in a mindset going, no, I'm moving forward, and I'm going to have thought leaders around me. I'm going to do something
Yeah.
I call influence thinking that I cover in the book, which deals with your mind and the influence of trusted voices
Mhm.
and also the actions that you take. So I would just say that's what you want to do. Claim it today. If this is something you want, say, I am going to be independent, but a part
Right.
of a bigger company. And
Well,
that's the I am statement. And you don't wait until the someday that the perfect opportunity happens, because the pursuit is in performance, not perfection.
then we got a couple of sound bites there.
I
That
told
was
you. I
fantastic.
told you.
Thank you so much for your time today, Troy. This has been amazing, and thank you for sharing your story, your journey, and best of luck with Fanny Rules. So thank
Well,
you so
thanks, Peter. Thank you.
To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.